Medvedev threatens U.S. with hypersonic cruise missiles, likens U.S. to the Nazis. It said that Medvedev has repeatedly made fiery and bombastic threats to unleash Russia's arsenal, including warnings that the Kremlin would use tactical or strategic nuclear weapons. Maybe he's making the threats that he wanted to back when he did stuff, but again, these are pretty savage threats. It says former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev threatened the U.S. With hypersonic cruise missiles and compared the American government's policies to that of the NAZIS in a Thursday Telegram post in response to the U.S. Embassy appeal to Russian citizens for peace. It says the main gift of the new year was the arsenal of Zircon missiles that went yesterday to the shores of NATO countries, said Medvedev, an ally of Russian Prez Vlad, and of course who currently serves as deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council. So again, this used to be the Russian president. He is threatening with nuclear weapons. Obviously, again, during his time, it was a whole different era back then, and it hasn't been that long. It says the nuclear warhead-capable Zircon missiles were reported by Reuters on Wednesday to have been placed on the frigate Admiral Gorshkov to be deployed to the Indian and Atlantic Oceans. So just to put that in perspective, they are physically putting nukes out in the water where they can hit U.S. targets. Hopefully that never happens, and I'm sure it probably won't. But again, this is news from a prepper standpoint. Most of us look at the very unlikely scenarios, and we try to prepare for it. As far as I don't believe that we will immediately go into nuclear conflict, but I do believe we are heading into World War III, if not already started. I somewhat believe we've actually already been in it, that people just don't realize because media is so deceptive. What's funny is people are arguing about whether it is just media trying to scare us about World War III or if it's already begun. Honestly, the thing that they're not talking about, that it is basically already here. The financial war, the economic war, and of course the physical war going on in Europe, replaying exactly what happened in World War II, where the U.S. and NATO allies were sending over stuff to Europe. So it says Israeli actions on Temple Mount unacceptable. U.S. tells USNC. That's a different story. 1,000-kilometer range with hypersonic Mach 9 and the ability to use any payload with a guarantee overcome any missile defense, threatened Medvedev. It says let it stand somewhere 100 miles off the coast closer to the Potomac River. The Potomac, of course, flows through Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. Basically saying we'll put it 100 miles away from your capital. Yeah, it's pretty freaky. We'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show. There is so much more. Tonight's show is going to be packed. In fact, so much stuff that I'm going to have, of course, I'm going to actually not do call-ins tonight because it is later and we have so much news. But we will make up for that and do call-ins tomorrow. So stick around. We're going to be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, remember, go over to marfooglenews.com for full notifications if you're not getting notifications from the platform. then make sure to get them from us. All right, we're going to be going into all sorts of stuff tonight. So remember, if you are new here, remember to go over to our website. You will find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. Just look for tonight's thumbnail. This month, it will happen fast. And then once you click on that, you can actually find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to be showing you here today. Now, I want you guys to notice a big update. And it's not permanent. Our website is always updating and always changing. But there's a whole lot more work put into it. It's not permanent. We don't know. Please give us your feedback in the comments down below. If you do use our website very often, there are actual custom descriptions of all of the articles. Before, it just clicked through to the articles. So tell us what you think about this. Is this something you like? Should we keep it? Again, it is more work, but again, it is something that actually helps a lot of people, I believe, be able to not have to go into other places to read the news. They can stay here on our website. So again, if you want to go check it out, please go to marfooglenews.com. Every story that we're going to go over has kind of a cliff note to it, so make sure to go check that out. And then at the very bottom, it continues in the web-only content. Now, remember, the web-only content is all of the stuff that we could not fit into a 2-hour time period, and there are some things down there that you basically wouldn't talk about at a bar. So make sure to hit that spot. That is one of the most important spots of this entire show, so make sure to go check it out every day. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So as far as with everything that's going on right now, everybody kind of laughs when any Russian says nuke this, nuke that, and people have been trained to call it saber-rattling. At least that's what I think. There is a lot of saber-rattling. They, of course, they do a lot of like empty threats, and they say redline this and redline that. But I guess it's to the point where my peers and we look at it and go, okay, well, when is it going to turn into something real? None of us thought that Russia would be this humiliated, knowing their culture and how proud they are. The fact that they have been humiliated by all of the NATO countries, that they have been sanctioned, that all of this has really, been disconnected. They've taken out all U.S. and NATO products off of their shelves there. Like McDonald's and all of these other companies have basically bounced out. Companies have stopped doing deals with them. There are a lot of ways where they really financially hit Russia. Now, I don't know if this actually affected Putin himself at all, because Putin's supposedly richer than Elon Musk. So will he actually care? We don't know. But most people believe that the sanctions really have not done almost anything to stop a conflict, and the whole purpose of them was to stop them from invading UKR. Of course, there's all this back and forth about all of the Ganda that's going out. As far as him threatening this, we, of course, have had talks of this, 1,500-foot wave, the Poseidon nuclear weapon off of our coast. Now, Medvedev, the former president of Russia, is saying that he wants to put it 100 miles off the coast of Washington, D.C. Dex, do you think that that's just an empty threat, and they're just is Russia trying to scare us, or is our media trying to scare us by taking it out of context?
I think it's a little bit more likely to put a sub somewhere that close, but not any other ship that can easily be tracked and traced and seen. So I think it's definitely just some Ganda there, or at least some chest beating. But I would say that this ship moving around, especially moving, through the Mediterranean out to the Atlantic and potentially going across, we don't know where it's going to go, but all of the locations in between are NATO countries, and any location, this ship could easily be used to, put some pressure against, France or UK or anyone else, on the outer edge of Europe, on the eastern edge of Europe, if they wanted to. And not that it's necessarily going to cause them to do anything, but at the same time, it is, insightful when a ship is sitting out, right off your coast, even if it isn't international water. So, it certainly would be interesting to see if he takes it all the way across. It's not his only ship. They have others. So, but this one's obviously making a big deal because they're making it well known that, they've got these hypersonics, and these are the short range. They go like 600 miles which, you may think is long range, but that's not like an ICBM, which goes around the world, right? This is meant to go short, but get there in a hurry. Like it'll hit you before you know it's coming.
Well, and then what do you think that the Russians that supported Medvedev and so say this, Medvedev had the equivalent of people supporting him, like the people here supported T-Man. Say if there's T-Man supporters, Trump supporters that basically T-Man said, we're going to go over there and we're going to put this right on your coast. You know that there are people that will say, hell yeah, we are. We're going to come to your coast. We're going to kick your ass. I just wonder how many of the Russians that are former Medvedev fans or the people that supported Medvedev and then also support the whole conflict in general, this is a message to them as well. This could be Ganda to their own country, and they're comparing us to NAZIS, which goes both ways, and they've compared UKR to that horrible name from World War II of Germany, right? So this is something that you have to set up if they were setting up within their own country to basically craft the narrative to go to war with the U.S. and have support for it. Well, make us a bunch of NAZIS, right? I don't know. It's definitely spooky. I mean, the things that we cover now are just absolutely insane. I mean, even 10 years ago, I mean, there wasn't this much. There's so much now. Compared to even the early 2000s, I mean, there was stuff going on even with the conflict with after 2001 in September. After that event, there was, of course, this thing, but it was never really this bad. I would think that this would compare more to the Cold War, what we're going through right now. But again, that was before my time. So does this compare for some of you that have been alive for the Cold War? Did this compare to this or the Cuban Missile Crisis or any of these other events? Or do you think that this is worse? Let me know in the chat below. If you're in a generation that remembers these things and did drills and got under your desks and did the nuclear drills and things, is it as bad now as it was then? Or do you think that we are actually closer than we are now than we were then? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear it. Also, I want to thank, make sure to go and thank all of the Foogle family mods here. All of them are really great people. I've known them all for a very long time. So make sure to go subscribe to them. We try to spread the love. If you're coming to see my show and if you're new here, make sure to go check out all of our friends as well. We try to push channels up, not down. A couple of the simple rules, again, tonight and tomorrow for our call-in tomorrow. Make sure to be polite to everybody. Don't be rude to anybody when there are callers. Tonight was going to be a call-in, but we have so much. But tomorrow will take the place of that. Be polite. Treat the callers nice and treat the other people in chat. And then don't talk trash about other channels. Don't talk trash about other people. Again, that's just generic rules that we go by to keep it positive. This is a spot where people get off work or they're working right now, and they'll pop into chat and they have like-minded individuals or unliked-minded individuals, and they get to talk about the news and debate with them politely. There's a way to do that. Anybody who's taken debate knows how to go about that without offending or being offended at the same time. And then evacuations, power outages sweep California as the latest bomb cyclone slams state. So this has been hitting us up here in Washington like crazy. Like I said earlier, I can't imagine what California is going through. Ilea, love an update video from you in the next couple days. We'll actually show the rain was going sideways in the video that Ilea did. And, they say sideways rain, and I've seen sideways rain. It's like this. But in her video, I literally saw what they mean by sideways rain. It was going sideways. That is pretty incredible. We just don't have those kind of storms here. We have that. This is what I thought sideways rain was, where it's hitting you on the side of the face. This looked like it was flying through there like Superman. So very, very crazy. She showed video footage of trees down and all sorts of other things on her property. I can't imagine what other people are dealing with in other parts of California. Heavy rains, high winds, power outages, and evacuations rolled across California on Thursday as a second massive storm in a week overwhelmed the state and was blamed for at least 2 people perishing. Forecast called for 10 inches of rain in some areas as the bomb cyclone, a storm intensified by a quick drop in atmospheric pressure, threatened to swamp swaths of the state. So I'm praying for everybody down there in California. For those of you that believe that some of this has got some puppet master strings behind it, who knows? You may be right. It just seems weird that we just keep having these super, super extreme events. It could be tied into the solar events. There was a recent solar event. In fact, it does not look like Wages could... he wasn't able to get home in time to do a video, but I did want to show you. Let's see here. I did want to read you what he sent me about this. It says, an X 1.6 flare just hit. R3 radio blackouts hit the South Pacific and Australia. No apparent CME with it. It says even if it had a CME, it would probably not hit Earth. Same area that caused the big one that the other day with the Bob Marley face. That, of course, was really insane. If you haven't seen that show, it's about 3 or 4 days ago. Just look for Face in the Sun. But yeah, so solar events might be affecting the weather and other things as well. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to say, I do have a link for you for a video. It's not a video he created, but it's the image or the video image he sent that goes along with that.
Okay, good.
It's in,
all right, we got
it's in
that.
Screener.
Yeah, it would be worthless to try to show it on my phone, but it is a very, very big eruption. We'll show you that here in a minute. And then ChatGPT creator, OpenAI talks for tender, offering value in company at $29 billion. So, Dex, this ChatGPT came out. You have actually used it. You got on, I think you have to get on a waiting list to try to use it, and then you've actually been able to try it out. What is this thing like? And then do you think that this is worth $29 billion? Do you think it's worth more? Is this the future of all sorts of different things? What are they going to do with this?
Well, a couple of thoughts that come to mind. One, Elon is involved in this. For those of you that don't know, he was one of the early, I guess, one of the early investors. Also, I think Microsoft put about $1 billion into it. The company is called OpenAI. And OpenAI created DALL-E, which you may have heard of. I know we've talked about it before. That's the one that creates images. You can tell it to paint a picture of a astronaut riding a horse on the moon in a photorealistic fashion, and it'll create that image. That's using AI. And then, of course, they launched this thing called ChatGPT, which was designed to be more like a bot, like you talk to it in a text fashion, and it's designed to process and talk back in a language that is as close to human as possible. In other words, it's going to speak to you in a way that you can understand, as opposed to being a traditional dump of data or a computer trying to talk to you. It's very natural. Like you can tell it. You can ask it a question or you can ask it for information. It'll give you the information it has, and then you can ask it to give you more detailed information about it. You could ask it to simplify the information it gives you. There's lots of different things you can do when you're talking to it, and it actually responds, and it can respond in various ways. You can ask it to use emotion. You can ask it to, to basically, talk back to you and, talk about things or give it information. Now, it only has the data that they had programmed into it up to, I think, sometime in 2001. So it doesn't have current events. So it's not like you could ask it, what its thoughts on the current conflict in UK are. It would only know what happened, with probably the drills back in 2001, if it even had that. I'm sure it would know about, the Crimea stuff in 2014. So it's interesting because it's only is a limited set of information, but it's not that limited. You can ask it what happened back, you can ask all sorts of information about it from back to,
why
early
2001?
Know what happened in. Yeah, you could go. Well, that's just when they programmed it. Not 2001. I'm sorry, 2021. I misspoke.
Oh, okay.
But basically,
okay.
last year when they launched it, it was whatever data they had up to that time. They basically cut it off and said, okay, that's the set of data it learned from. It was all of the information it could pull from the internet, and from all the sources, I guess, that they had plugged in. So that's how it learned. So that's one of the rules it tells you is I don't know anything beyond that. But look, here's the thing. We've reported, and I'm trying not to go too long on this, but we've reported that a lot of people in the tech industry are looking at this as a major disruptor. And one of the people who's definitely eyeballing it as a disruptor is Google, because this can literally replace a lot of what people try to do in the search engine today. Like they may go into it and ask a simple question like, how do I change, the oil on a specific model car, or where are the safe points to jack that car up so it doesn't fall on me when I'm trying to do that, right? All of that type of information can be brought back to you in a much more structured way, as opposed to just giving you a bunch of links to information. So a lot of people are looking at this as a huge disruption and a big shift that we're going to see change in the internet. And if you think about the way we interact today, a lot of what we do is we go to a search engine and we ask for results back, whether that's in YouTube or whether that's on Google or in DuckDuckGo, which I know a lot of people here use. That's how we normally, but in the future, it seems like where we're going to move is we're going to have a natural conversation with the internet. We're going to say, hey, internet, tell me everything you know about this subject that I got to write, research report on, or I want to learn more about this other subject. Can you tell me, summarize it for me and give me the most important details of it, and then start asking more questions and it talks back to you. So that's a huge disruption. If this thing takes off, and it has taken off, a lot of people are using it. Everybody's saying it is, it's working really, really, really well. And that's what they were doing. They wanted to test this out. So the next step is they're taking the company potentially public, and they're going to sell off the shares, and they're estimating it at 29 billion. That's huge. But at the same time, when you think about, a company like Google, when they first started off with a search engine, they thought they were the cat's meow, and look at it now. They are. So if this is the big disruption, then it's definitely going to be potentially one of those key points in history that we'll look back at.
Well, and again, it's like sometimes when you search something, or say when now the current thing is like you ask hey Alexa, sorry, it was just screwing with you guys. Wanted to say that so half of you have Alexa at home going yes, or Siri. Hey Siri, I don't have any of those things, so nothing gets triggered. But if you ask them, it will say, oh, well, here's a link for, the Constitution in 1776. But your question was, how many people wrote it? And it will give you just like a link to general information or Wikipedia. At this point, this thing is going to say like, well, what do you know about the Black Plague? And it will say, well, what part of the Black Plague? And it will talk to you like a human being. And it will say, well, it depends on what kind that you want. And it will say, but do you mean the time period or whatever? And then you can be specific, and you can say, well, what about from, 1400 to, and I don't know the dates offhand, but 1550 to 1565. And it will say, okay, now let's break it down even further. And it will give you specific information. You'll be able to ask questions about almost anything. And it comes back to you in this human form, which is just absolutely terrifying. The problem with this is that this is going to easily be taken, and everybody that sees this, uses this, is going to go, wait, I have a guy that I pay $50 an hour to do this kind of stuff. I could just grab and use this. So it's kind of scary as far as for the job market. This is why, and this is what's freaky. Elon saying in the future, your best bet is to have a universal income, basically a welfare check. This is why he is telling you this. Things are about to change, people, whether we have a World War III or not. And that World War III may bring on the conditions where people will submit to going into 15-minute cities, and where people will move into mega centers and will use ChatGPT, and everybody will be on a welfare check. Basically, we'll all be slave labor and have a universal income. This is why he said that your best bet in the future is having a universal income. If you're talking about all of the different things, and we've, in just the last few years, hyperspeed went into, now there's trucks, as far as the whole trucking industry is about to be shaken up by these things. Plumbing industry, there's even a freaking robot plumber, robot air pilots, pretty much any job in that bracket where you could still live the American dream, make a good amount, make a good living to where you could actually buy a house at some point. Those are all the ones being targeted. The minimum wage jobs are being targeted as well. I mean, you've got whole fast food restaurants run by autonomous machines now. So that, if people think, oh, it'll be slow, it's not going to go slow. It's moving up so fast. And guess what? Those robots don't have L&I claims. They don't have health insurance. They don't have 401ks. They don't have to pitch in anything. They just have to fix them and maintain them. And the more of them, more people you replace with them, the less they have to spend on maintenance. If they just have one robot and 50 employees, then they have all those different things, and then they have to pay for somebody. But if they have 50 robots and one employee, that works out a whole lot better. It's getting pretty terrifying how good this is, and now it's starting to come together. This is why Elon and others told us this, and this is what I almost think people need to go up against. And then airport bang attack erupts as cartel soldiers fire at planes in full-scale battle in revenge for the arrest of El Chapo's son. It says that the cartel gunmen have invaded an airport and opened fire at army planes in terrifying scenes. Dramatic video shows cartel fighters wielding weapons storming Culiacan, and I'm totally messing that up, international airport in the western Mexican province of Sinaloa. Again, this is in the heart of, like, this is gang cartel land, right? Drug cartel gunmen from the fearsome Sinaloa cartel have launched the violent raid in revenge for the capture of El Chapo's son, Elvidio. It says that the cartel's armed wing has also set up roadblocks along the highways of Sinaloa in an attempt to recapture the son of the notorious drug kingpin, who was seized earlier on Thursday. This is absolutely freaky. This is why I say we are living a movie right now. This is Breaking Bad in real life. This is some, I guess maybe Better Call Saul in real life, right? But it says the further footage shared on social media shows a convoy of cartel sicarios, I think means soldiers or whatever, the bad guys, rushing to confront the Mexican army following Ovidio's arrest. So they got El Chapo, now they got his son. This is shaking up the entire cartel. This is where innocent people in the street end up getting hurt, and they use that as kind of a negotiation tactic with the Mexican government. Dex, this is crazy. This sounds like it's straight out of a movie, and the clips kind of show that it really kind of is. They're literally setting up roadblocks.
Yeah, this is nuts. They had to land a plane because it took gunfire. This is a big deal. And by the way, this is not the first. We had an article, and I don't know if we ran out of time or if it was just an overflow, like 2 nights ago or three shows ago, that they across the border in I think it was El Paso, not in the U.S., but across the border right there, they attacked they being the cartel attacked a prison. Not only attacked a prison, they rolled in with armored vehicles. They rolled in with heavy equipment, and they took out, the prison, went in, got the person out that they wanted. And it was literally like a military crew rolled through. And, then it took them about a day to recapture and claim some sort of sense of stability around there with their own military and their own forces. So yeah, this is getting the cartel there is definitely it's escalated to a much higher level. I even heard somebody making comments that we should be lobbing things over the border at the cartel, although that's kind of an extreme stance. I could not imagine us lobbing any type of munitions into Mexico. That needs to be coming from the Mexican military. But yes, this is a bigger event than we've seen in the past. And I don't know if it's going to keep growing from here or if it's just something that just happened to go down at this part, especially with this person who was El Chapo's son, who got detained or arrested. So I know that's kind of a big moment. So we'll have to see how this plays out. But yeah, pay attention. This they own and control the flow of people and the flow of contraband across the border. They've got a ton of money. They have a ton of power. They wield it very much so across those border towns, and they wielded so much that they took a prison down. They took an airport down. They shut down every road into that city. They, fired upon the planes. I mean, come on, that's extreme. That's stuff you hear in combat zones.
Yeah, as Wide Awake and Angry put it, it has said the cartel has full control over our border. And when you see all of the stuff that comes through, I mean, they have tons of corrupt border patrol agents too. So that's another thing. So when you're thinking about the numbers they have told us of how many, obviously they argue that we don't have enough Border Patrol agents. Now, I know there's a bunch of really good Border Patrol agents, and some of you may be related or be those agents, but I'm sure you probably know about the bad ones, the ones that are taking an extra lump sum of money so they turn a blind eye and let things through. That's been going on for as long as the border's been there. I mean, it's something that happens, but what's crazy is they do take that lump sum. They probably live nice or whatever for however long, but they're turning a blind eye while they're taking children and taking fen and all of this other crazy stuff that is literally destroying the country. And it's sad that money is the root of all evil. It absolutely is screwing up everything. But without it, they would find another way. It's pretty insane what's going on down there. By the way, when I was in Mexico, and I was there for quite a bit, in Bucerias and Sayulita, about an hour north of Puerto Vallarta, down there in Sayulita, in the little village, and before it wasn't the tourist place it is now. This was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And back then, it was before they had I think they put in a Senior Frogs that brought on all these tourists, but it was this little village. But when I was there was guys with M16s, basically guarding every street. And I'm like, what are those? And they're like, oh, that's the military. And basically they said the cartel is basically right there. And they said that they have often fights to protect the little town. And then at one point when we were traveling one day, the military was gone and the cartel came in. And they did this switch off where the cartel was watching the town. It was absolutely nuts. And by the way, a lot of people down there respect the cartels. They believe it is the only way things done. The cartels actually do good things for certain communities. It's kind of like the mafia. If you remember the mafia in New York, they would be the ones handing out the turkeys and doing all this stuff. They do good things, but then turn around, and then when things are bad, they can, take people's heads off in the street. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so we'll be covering it, and I'm sure there's going to be more video that pops out of that. And then Wi-Fi in the sky. U.S. Air Force deploys its newest E-11A aircraft to Saudi Arabia that can act like a low-Earth satellite. We actually talked about this before. And when they were starting to patent some of this stuff, we said, this is some wild stuff. It said the U.S. Air Force has deployed an all-new model of one of its precious communications aircraft to Saudi Arabia, according to a press release by the USAF issued on January 2nd. It says an E-11A equipped with Northrop Grumman's Battlefield Airborne Communication Node, or BACN, arrived at Prince Sultan Air Base in December last year. The new E-11A, whose serial number is 219045, was handed over to the USAF by the Canadian airframe manufacturer Bombardier Defense in September of 2022. The aircraft arrived in Saudi Arabia on the December 16th, and it says to officially join the 430th Expeditionary Electronic Combat Squadron at Prince Sultan Air Base. It says the jet is the first of 6 E-11As that the USAF is expected to receive by the end of 2026, and it brings the total size of the USAF's E-11A fleet to 4. The latest E-11A is heavily modified, the Bombardier Global 6500 business jet, while the USAF has 3 other E-11As based on BD 700 and Global 6000 types. This is an image of, and this is the new one, right? So what's crazy is it doesn't look like it doesn't have any of these crazy attachments or, dishes or anything. But this is one of these, and that's what's crazy about this. This could be flying right over you, doing this, basically acting as a low Earth satellite, and you wouldn't even know it. So, Dex, one thing I think about this is how they were trying to come up with a system of their own broadband connection without satellites, right? They were trying to come up with the system to communicate without our satellites in case our satellites get knocked down. Would this then act as that? Say if our satellites got knocked out of the sky, could this thing then fill in? Is that sort of the purpose of this? Because it doesn't seem like
absolutely this could provide connectivity, communications, and it can, it's mobile in the sense that if they need it, like they need to send it to a certain location, like Saudi or someplace, they can just fly it in and there it is, and they can put multiples in the sky. They can rotate them up and down, refill them, and send them back up, and maintain that equivalent style low Earth orbit communication. In other words, these things are up really high. They're not as high as those satellites, but they're up at the height that the plane would fly, 40,000 feet or 35,000 feet, in that range. And they're providing communications or, internet connectivity to whoever is allowed to use that system.
So it's kind of like the military,
whether that be
Starlink.
Public or military.
So it's kind of like their Starlink, but they don't have it in satellite technology. It
absolutely is. It's like Starlink in a plane.
Yep, and also this could be used in a situation where they don't end up using Starlink, or say when Cuba shut off all of the internet to its people, something like. I don't think. Well, here's the other part though: is this thing flying up there could be shot down. So what is the true purpose of it? Is it going to be in safe areas where we don't have connectivities? I don't know. Something tells me that this is going to be a part of a system that if something does go down, if SHTF happens, these will be what ends up, helping out and filling in some of the gaps. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's go over to the chat here real quick. Thank you for Sergeant Sedenko, Ian DeBow, thank you. Google fam, much love from Bangkok. What is going on? I didn't know you were in Bangkok. Patriots 421, Giant Dirtbox. Beth, what is going on? Mickey 41, Leslie Lindsay, Dizzy French, what is happening? Doug Finn, Quicksilver, Pride is the root of all evil. JC, Warren G, Brian McCann. Sorry, let me get this out of the way real quick. Callie Singh, what is the loiter time? Jonathan Ramos, like how long does it can it stay up in the air? Is that what a loiter time means for a plane? Is that how long can it go up there and stay? I don't know if I didn't see anything about it being fueled in the sky, but it probably has a way to be fueled in the sky if it does this. Either way, even if it couldn't, it could go down while another E-11A goes back up and fills its spot. So I don't know if that's what that means. If it doesn't, let me know what it does. Kiwi Lass, Lord Andrew, Nate Dampier, and we have Truth Iris. Hey, nice to see you. Jeremy Gale, nice to see you. Marshmallow says research 15-minute cities. Exactly what I said. So that's the thing. WW3, or as somebody pointed out, this could be WW4, that WW3 has already happened. It could take a WW3 or 4 to be able to enact things that they're telling us. They're telling us our world is going to change drastically in the next 10 years. But yet we're like, well, how is it going to get from where we are now to this future world of us being in 15-minute cities and not eating meat and eating fake food and nobody will live out in the country and everybody's going to be in mega centers. How is this going to change? That's what I'm saying. Paul says the square root is the evil. I think the root of the evil. I don't know about that. And then South Korea's Yoon warns of ending military pact after North drone intrusion. So this is a trip. North Korea actually went near the president above. Dex, do you want to cover? Basically, they got pretty close. It sounds like.
So they admitted today, and specifically President Yoon Suk-yeol admitted that they actually made it over his residence or over the location where they are in Seoul, and their defenses didn't do what they were supposed to do. So that's one thing. We talked about that a little bit back when it happened, but in response to this, one of the many responses to this is basically saying, hey, if you guys do it again, no matter what, they're considering dropping the pact that they have that they've made with them with NK. And abandoning that could actually mean putting the guard posts back at the right at the edge of the DMZs. It could mean putting up live fire drills in what are now in the former no-fly zones, and starting back up the propaganda broadcasts that were shouted across the border, and other things that they were doing. All of those things were things that NK and Kim was very upset about, didn't like those things. So if they got rid of that and they started doing that again, you could just imagine, like, he doesn't like people listening to K-pop. So imagine how much he doesn't want his citizens to hear any propaganda that's thrown across the border, whether it be physically thrown or shouted or digitally transmitted or broadcast on, radio waves, etc. Right. So all of that stuff is not happening because they have this pact. And they're saying we're going to abandon it. You come across our lines again with drones, we may abandon this thing altogether and we'll go back to the way it used to be.
So basically, in that comment, he says, during the meeting, he instructed the National Security Office to consider suspending the validity of the military agreement if North Korea stages another provocation invading our territory. So that's not good for the rest of the world. In the 2018 deal sealed on the sidelines of the summit between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in, the last one, it says, calls for seizing all hostile acts, creating a no-fly zone around the border, and removing landmines and guard posts within the heavily fortified demilitarized zone, or the DMZ. So, and it said that the government has not said how many mines and posts were removed, citing security concerns. So that abandoning this pact would be bad news for everybody. Heath Spear, I want to say thank you. And then I do believe I missed somebody at the very end of the show. And I do want to read this comment because I feel it's very important. Yesterday, Robert A. ended up coming in, it looks like near the end of a Black Swan event, and said, I've watched your channel and lurked since pre-Rona times. And it says, I've been force V'd twice to keep my military benefits. There's more to it, but man, just to stop there. Is anybody in that same spot where you had to do it to keep your benefits or to keep your job? That's really pretty messed up. I wonder is that all states? Is that basically, I know that if you're in the military, you've signed a waiver saying I'm a guinea pig for anything. When you do go in, they give you whatever they need to. If they want to test on you while you're in, that, from what I've heard, is basically you take what they give you, and that's how it works. And the rest is, I watch your channel to keep informed and stay ready. I miss the Discord chat. Peace, love, and blessings to Marf and the fam this year. We're going to need it. Well, Robert A., I do miss the Discord chat as well. If you're new here or in the last 3 years, we had a Discord chat, and it got too big and it got too powerful. We had state groups in every single state, including Hawaii. We even had a Canadian group, and Jay helped with that tremendously. She did a wonderful, wonderful job basically running that thing, along with Clan Mama and others. And essentially, each state group was meeting in person, and some groups were as big as 130, 150. Most groups were in like the 10 to 20, and people were meeting in every state. And they were doing sometimes bi-weekly, weekly, bi-monthly, and they would meet and have barbecues or go to restaurants, and that's how a lot of the Foogle fam got really, really close. Well, right before one of the, where you drop things in the box, they started talking about the certain boys, right? These very prideful boys, and they basically knocked off all sorts of discords. Ours, they said it was because of disinfo, but yet we, as the creator of the chat, never shared anything. So all we did was provide rooms for every state. And inside of that, they said that, people were switching, but why wouldn't they just get rid of those people and ban them off of the thing instead of going after the big group? Right around that same time, there's Vice articles saying that they took out one of the biggest Discord things, and Discord actually directly put out a statement saying that they were helping with getting rid of information and this and that and disinfo, right? Well, that group, I think it was a big threat because people were actually meeting in every state and people were, organizing. And it's really sad that it was like that. And it's just, that's what level they went to at that point. That was when BP Earthwatch also got taken down. Now he's back. He's now at almost 150,000 after having 500,000. He had to start all over. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to say what's been revealed in the files over on the Twitter is kind of insightful to some of the mindset that may have been going on, because that didn't just happen there. It happened on all of those platforms.
It was coordinated. It was the same time AJ was pulled. It was all these things were happening, and people even questioned that they were all communicating. Later on, Congress showed that they were like doing all this stuff, and they were completely had the system across all things. And that's why I know, like, that's why I appreciate you guys supporting us. We're putting a crap load of work into this, and virtually everything we do is like they have a leash holding us back, because before that time, this channel would be able to get recommended. It was just treated like a normal channel, along with all of the other platforms. And it was like at one day we could just see it. And then everything started turning yellow and everything started going. It was just, it was crazy. It was crazy how everything just overnight changed. And the whole platform just, all platforms changed. It was really bad, including that one. So thank you, everybody that does support our little channel. Like we said, we don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have a multi-billion-dollar company behind us. We have you guys, so thank you. Thanks, everybody that does value our content and values the work that goes into it and the time. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, if you do want to protect yourself against an EMP, affiliates, any of the affiliates that we have, we believe they'll either save your life, make your life easier, or make you more comfortable in a disaster. The EMP Shield is a device that, again, this company is actually, after we ended up doing an affiliate deal with them, they ended up getting huge contracts. At one point, we didn't even know if we were going to still be able to be, basically as civilians getting these things, because they did huge contracts with the likes of agencies like DHS and DOD, and now they're on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. The EMP Shield started out, they were making these by hand in Kansas. They're still making them by hand, but it's a whole lot more as far as the production goes. Now they have, of course, they're not in its tiny little building where they started. Now they've expanded greatly. They make one of the most unique products. It is able to ground the signal from an EMP, all three phases, basically anything that comes at you EMP-wise, and anything that comes at you CME-wise, up to 228,000 amps, or basically Carrington level plus event. It can ground that signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. So if you've ever worried if an EMP hits and your car just all of a sudden dies, that's where this comes in. You wire this in less than 10 minutes. You don't have to have any prior knowledge into your car, and then it will ground the signal to the frame of the car, and it will keep your car running. So if you've got 10, 20, 30, 50 miles to go home from work, or if your bug out spot's 60 miles away, then you most definitely want to check and see if you need this for your car. Again, you can put these on your cars, your trucks, of course, your ATVs, your motorcycles. Now they have the new micro version, which is literally about a third of the size of the original. It can actually fit in the palm of your hand. And that one works for all sorts of smaller devices. That is also the same protection that all of the other ones do. But the most important part is this is going to protect you. Second most important is when you go through any of our affiliates, you are supporting our independent channel. There was a point where, we wanted to do our own app, but it quickly got to the point where it would have been basically us taking full responsibility for absolutely anything said in that, and it would cost a whole lot of money. We would love some point to do the Discord again, or have our own, Discord type thing. If you want to help us get there eventually, go support affiliates, go share us out. More importantly, you don't have to buy anything. Share us out, get us to a friend or family or a coworker. That is the only way we grow now. It is literally the only way we grow. So get us out to somebody, and you can feel like you helped an independent channel. That would be really great. MarfugleNews.com/EMP. Again, I do believe people will thank us if either one of these events happens. And it actually protects against lightning. So, and then Kim's daughter reveal hints of prolonged family rule. Dex, do you want to quickly go over this one, and then I'll cover the U.S. warship sailing through Taiwan Strait?
So we've shown you at least one, if not two, of the different times. I think she's actually been seen 3 times now, his daughter, and he has been publicly putting her out in front and showing that. And a lot of the assumptions are being made that she, just like his sister, has been suggested as being the potential next ruler. In other words, keeping it in the family. I know that we had heard from Dennis Rodman when he went over there. He said, hey, pay attention. If his sister starts talking more, something's up, because the notion was it was going to stay in the family. At least they were trying to keep the rule kind of like a monarchy, keep it in the family. So and so the speculation now is, should we be paying attention to her? She's very young, so it's not like it's going to happen right away. Presumably, give her another 10 years. But the point being is will she be the replacement for Kim, and will she take his position as opposed to other people in his family, or even other people in power there that are below him? So I think it's pretty much a safe bet. We've seen what he's done with his sister. He's very close with her. She's been in positions of I don't mean it derogatory when I say barking, but she makes really large statements towards other countries, like, really shouting out, positions towards them that you would think, wow, that's kind of strong, and it's coming from the sister. So we've seen her in play quite a bit. It kind of backed off a little, and now we're seeing his daughter out in the public. So the gist is, the thought is, it's probably going to be the daughter, and maybe the sister in the meantime, if something does happen to him.
Well, if you want to talk about barking, she literally says that U.S. Officials are like barking dogs. So I know why your mind went there too. It's like she literally says that all of the talk, multiple times she said that we're just a bunch of barking dogs, that we're just, POSs on the bottom of their shoe, and they don't pay any attention to us. She has done the most recent severe threats, basically threatening countries. That whole comment back when they thought he died for like 2 hours, people thought that Kim died. I remember, because I was at the park. I thought something was going to go down at that point. I was at a park with my kids, and they said that I remember I got a text from Dex, and it said, they think Kim is gone, that he passed away during a surgery. And I said, whoa, things are about to go down. Like, something happened. They might think it was done on purpose or something. And then they said he was in a coma. Then they said that he was damaged. And then Dennis Rodman said, if you hear his sister come out more often, then something's different. And then within like a week, she started talking for Kim, and everybody's like, whoa, okay. And Dennis Rodman, the reason why people go to his randomness is because he has been invited there, and he's personal friends with Kim. He's gone and partied, and says that it's like a strip club at the guy's house. So he's very close, and for some reason, little Kim loves Dennis Rodman. U.S. That says a lot about Kim too. Like, Dennis Rodman was a rebel. Like, the movie, what was it? What was that movie about it that got canceled? Do you remember, Dex, the one with Seth Rogen and what's his face that made fun of Kim, and they ended up saying they would hack all of Sony Films or something if they put the movie out? What was that called? It was called
Was it The Interview?
Yes.
Or am I thinking of the wrong thing?
No, I think you might be right. Yeah, The Interview. And it went to a fake Kim Jong-un and made him look like an idiot. And they actually bowed down and changed the movie. They changed the original movie. They were softer on him. They made him look better because that Kim said that he was going to hack the world or something. Said that he was going to hack all of the film industries or whatever. And they took him seriously. They didn't release it at first. They thought it was going to start a war over a comedy. Yeah, just, we live in a movie, folks. And then U.S. warship sails through the sensitive Taiwan Strait. A U.S. warship sailed through the sensitive Taiwan Strait on Thursday. Part of what the U.S. military, they always say the same thing. It's a routine Freedom of Navigation Act, Freedom of International Waters Act, or whatever. They always say the same things. But why you got to pay attention to this is if you know how it would play out in a real confrontation with them. We basically already have to be there if China is planning on doing this. So any future times that the U.S. brings its Navy or any part of its Navy over there, you should pay attention, because that may mean that they have information that China was going to do something in the next couple days, or possibly was planning something, or it's just routine, right? But one of those times it's going to be because maybe they got some secret information or it leaked that Xi was getting ready to actually take Taiwan. Because in their contingency plan for them to try to be there, they say that they would basically have to be there. If the U.S. Navy is not there when it starts, then it would be more of a military operation to take things back, because they would already take some of the small islands that are chained, and it would be like that. They're only 120 miles off of the coast of China. So it's a lot quicker for China to get to Taiwan than it is for the U.S. wherever they're stationed, even at the closest stations, than it is for China to get there from China. It says in recent years, U.S. warships, on occasion those from allied nations such as Britain and Canada, have sailed through the strait, drawing the ire of China, which claims Taiwan against the objections of its democratically elected government. It says in a statement, the U.S. military said the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer Chung Hoon. I did not know we had. So we have one called the guided missile destroyer Chung Hoon carried out the transit. It said Chung Hoon's transit through the Taiwan Strait demonstrates the United States' commitment to free and open Indo-Pacific. I almost thought that was like a air. I'm like, wait, is this U.S. Yeah. Anyways. And then, so as far as this goes, it says the Chinese embassy in Washington did not immediately respond to requests for comment. And the narrow Taiwan Strait has been a frequent source of military tension. We've also covered every time they go through, they have this back and forth. The thing is when you add all of these smaller events together, that's where it kind of gets spicy. By the way, thank you, Craig Alicious. I appreciate your support. Thank you for the super chat. To whoever just lost their dog, I am sorry. I lost my girl, Bella. Again, Craig Alicious, thank you for your support, and thank you. That was Jason Beck, and thank you for commenting that. And then Heath Spear, thank you for your super chat as well. Hey, thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Wow, thank you, guys. Heath Spear says, hi, thank you, Adam Dex, and your family, and your dedication to the greater purpose. Thanks, mods, for keeping the place clean. Happy New Year. Thanks for shouting out the mods. Jaleesa H., thank you. Carol Quanstrom, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Carol McLean, thank you. Did 3 super stickers in a row. Very cute. Stephen McMahon, I was 12 in 1962. Us kids were oblivious, and if our parents were terrified, they didn't act it. Stephen McMahon, I believe you. I said my grandpa always said he didn't give a crap about those drills. But he was older, and it was more my mom's age that did those drills. She was born in 57. Yeah. Jeb Bush at DeSantis inauguration. I'm a Floridian, and I love what he's done as governor, but that sounds like Skull and Bones connections to me. Love you all, Jesus King. Oh, Jeb Bush at DeSantis inauguration. So you love DeSantis. I thought you were saying you like love Jeb Bush. Yeah, and by the way, like I was talking about the Bugatti dinners, The Bugatti dinners, and if you guys didn't know, there's a whole process to buying Bugattis, and I'm sure most of you don't care, but there is a point to this. To buy a Bugatti, there's actually a process that you go through, and the only reason I know about this is because I saw some stupid Andrew Tate thing that he went, and I go, there's a Bugatti dinner, so I ended up looking this Bugatti dinner up. Basically, Bugatti picks you, you don't pick them, and I bet it means if you have the money to buy it, you can buy it. But to buy a fresh one that's custom made, they have to be custom made. You have to endorse them. Basically, there's all these rules. There's like 13 steps to buy a Bugatti. And one of them, you have to do an interview. They're basically choosing you. You're not choosing them. Every car is custom made. And if you do want to do customization, it can't be something that somebody's already done. It's all these things. But at the Bugatti dinner, where at the very last part, the second one, they invite all of these Bugatti buyers to the same place, and they have dinner and fancy stuff and cigars and all of this, because these range from 1.7 million is the cheapest one to $20 million. And every Bugatti sale is that of like a business deal. It's less like a car sale, and it's more of a business deal. So these Bugatti dinners is all of the very richest and most elite people in the world, and it's like this little club. So if you get in, if they choose you, then you're a part of this club. And to buy one, you even have to like agree that you'll go to more meetings and go to these things. So to even own a Bugatti, it's like this skull and crossbones kind of thing where the main point is, what we don't see as civilians or anybody that makes under, 10 billion a year, is that these groups are so secretive and so active and so up in the air, like that we will never ever see the lights of any of these meetings. These meetings are done in secret, and the Bugatti one's probably on the surface level. But we're talking about skull and crossbones and these groups that go to Yale and Harvard and all these things. They are so strict and secretive. Of course, you have the Masons and all of these other groups, but the skull and crossbones and all of these crazy groups, they are the ones who decide for each other. They decide everything. And that's what's so scary is these are right in front of us. They are real. They're super real. They're as real as it gets. And most people, and I mean pretty much anybody that's not in our audience or in our peers' audiences, they don't realize that these aren't just fictional stories. These are real groups that meet in secret, that do almost everything, and you won't even let a janitor in these meetings. Like if you're a janitor, you're probably in this thing because you wouldn't be a janitor or a server or anything unless you are one of them. Like the servers that bring them their tea are driving Bugattis because they can't have anybody outside of their realm. Like it's just nuts. The more you look into it and what they do and all the stuff at the Grove and the Bilderberg and all these different places, it is absolutely insane. So Stephen Mann, I totally, or Vic, I believe, I totally agree with you. Carol McLean, Stephen Mann, enemy states are without doubt sending a literal army across our border. Why so certain? Why would we do it? I don't know. And then Eric Danizen says Clovis, New Mexico passed an ordinance to protect the unborn. This is a big deal, says Eric Denzelson. That is a big deal. New Mexico, huh? Clovis. Stephen McMahon, don't know why I didn't join the old Discord, but that was the way they could take down a group like that. Call us a militia. We had over 500 active military. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, I think that was why. And then it is crazy. I am from the UK and get a lot of my info from here. Great channel and community. Stuart Walker, thank you. Carrie Ray, thank you. Marf, thank you. Charles Jenkins, Old Money, Deep State, and New Money, globalists, are at war with each other. Weather weapons are the new tool in the box of mass destruction and the world dominance. May God be with us. Charles Jenkins, there has to be at least two evil groups that are at war right here. That's what I think. Just my opinion, though. Dex, do you want to go over the Commander of Kiev defense explains why it will be difficult for the Vlads to advance?
Certainly. And a quick fun fact. You learn something new every day. I just learned it. Chung Hoon, the ship, it's named after an admiral in our Navy who served during the second conflict. He was the first Asian American flag officer, received the Navy Cross Silver Star for conspicuous gallantry and extraordinary heroism as a commanding officer of the USS Sigbees in the 44 and 45 years, and he's from Hawaii. So there you go. Going on to
before you start, because I gotta respond to this comment. Somebody said that the Bugattis come with a sensitive Volkswagen engine. No thanks. By the way, they make you sign a waiver that says that you will change your tires every 2,500 miles. 2,500. Average person drives 13,000 miles a year. I'm sure people aren't driving these to work or whatever, but you have to do that. And you cannot let any weekend you have to get service through them, and it's like a requirement. And I even heard that there's a clause in there that you can get sued if you take it to somebody else, because it's like if you do one of these, it has to hold up the brand. It's just this is the kind of loopy stuff that these rich people do. They will have it shipped, like this movie Knives Out, Glass Onion that just came out, that everybody's talking about with all the stars in it. That movie shows the rich guy with the car on his roof, and he's like, "Why is it on your roof?" He's like, "Because it comes everywhere with me, and there's nowhere to drive it." This is what rich people do. It's making fun of the actual rich that do this kind of crap, and they're real. They will literally have their car put on a roof outside a window so they can look at it. This is the kind of nutso people that are in charge. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting, Dex.
No interruption at all, but I could just imagine how great that Bugatti buffet is. So let's move along. Let's talk back about UKR and specifically what's coming out from a commander. It's funny. It's like the same picture we had from the last statement from him, but this is UKR news. You know how UKR news is. It's all approved sources, approved organizations from the government there, and they're even putting down more lockdowns. So everything with a grain of salt when we talk about this. But one of the things we've been able to sort of decipher from all of the information we get on both sides is that there's more than likely, when this escalation happens, part of it's going to be in the north, and that north being coming in towards Kiev. So that would be sort of an obvious push if they're going to try to take Kiev again. Or put a push on it. This statement that's coming out from the commander of the defense forces there actually sort of supports that. And I think, while we do take things with a grain of salt from them, we should also pay a little bit of attention here. Basically, he's saying, hey, it's going to be difficult for them to come in from Belarus. It's going to be difficult for them to come in from the north because we have basically booby trapped the whole thing. It's rubble. There's mines everywhere. We have people and equipment and snipers ready to roll right there. And we do not plan to let them cross the border. Even if they come across it, they're going to be taken care of. The point I want to make is if this is not only is it a statement that they're making, so they want everyone to know this, but if it's true and they've defended and put up multiple defense lines, because they say they have multiple defense lines around here, about 1,000 kilometers that they've set up, then that means they know it's a threat. And otherwise they wouldn't waste the time, the resources, the people to set up a defensive line there. So if they're setting up a defensive line, they're doing it because there's intel and a reason to believe it. And I think that again goes back to the point that we've been making, is this big push is going to be coming. We'll be talking a little later about another person who has a suspicion that's happening in the beginning of February. We've heard everything from today or yesterday being the 5th that it would start around then and go forward. Of course, we've got the Orthodox Christmas holiday starting today being it's after midnight, the 6th here on the East Coast, but starting on the 6th and going to the 7th. So, the dates are kind of the timing is right between right now and say the end of the month that we're going to see this potential escalation. And I think this goes right to the point that we've been trying to make, that there's going to be this push from the north towards Kiev.
And the time period, that we don't try to set dates or anything, but there's been a bunch of concrete dates that over the last 6 months have been set and have actually been accurate. So if you pay attention to where those dates are coming from, you can actually see that there's a lot that are actually coming true. So you have to kind of filter through all of the crap, and really you have to look throughout history and keep track of this and archive what have the dates been that have been accurate. These ones do make sense, especially with the Patriot system going online soon, especially with some of the deadlines as far as when projects are finishing. There's at least 16 U.S. projects that are going to hurt Russia and China that are finishing in just the next 3 months. These are things that could immediately go into a battlefield if they're given to UKR that will actually halt and stop drone projects. If they're attacking them with drones, there's new systems that are actually being designed to specifically target drones. There's all sorts of things that are going in here. And then the chief of Wagner PMC released his first group of criminals who fought in UKR, lifting all convictions. Basically, and I think, did we have two different pieces or did this load different? So basically, Putin did end up giving a pardon to some convicts. The ones that were on the first front line of the conflict, if they survived or whatever, they basically get a pardon. It says Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner private military company, has released the first batch of criminals who had been recruited for the conflict against UKR from prisons. The convicts have also had all of their convictions removed. So when this first happened, everybody was like, oh, well, that, it's pretty messed up to use prisoners, but I'm betting that those prisoners are probably happy that they did do that because now they are now conviction-free. It says Prigozhin claims that many of those who had been imprisoned by the camps had only a few days left before being released, and they went to the conflict of aggression because they, quote, just wanted to defend their homeland. Finally, Prigozhin has given a piece of advice to criminals: do not drink too much, do not use drugs, do not rape women. This is literally what they said. Yeah. So I guess that's what you tell the convicts and the private military group. Don't drink too much. He didn't say don't drink, by the way. He just said don't drink too much. Do not use, yeah. Crazy times. And with the world looking away, Russia quietly took control over Belarus. Dex, Belarus under occupation is what some of the photos are showing, right? What do you think?
Well, and the fact that Lukashenko is sort of the, self-declared president there. And, for as much, we've given it a little airtime ourselves. We've talked about what he's been doing with Vlad. But I guess at the same time, nobody's really sort of taken note of the fact that if this UKR thing wasn't going on, there's this whole notion there as to whether or not they're independent or are they really part of Russia. And it seems to be like, and what people are they're drawing the correlation here is that while we weren't paying attention, not only did Lukashenko take over, then he sided quickly. He became part of the state, the union there with them, and basically have succumbed to complete control of Putin, so to speak. Everything they do, their economy, it's all completely dependent now, solely on Vlad's country. So this is, it's sort of like a thing that we would say, well, yeah, we kind of knew that, but at the same time, it really wasn't that way not too long ago. And here it's sort of happened through this event, through the last year and a half, and everything that's gone on from the origination of the drills that they were doing against UKR all the way up until now, past and post the start of the invasion. We've basically seen the shift of Belarus to pretty much be one of the union kind of states of Vlad's country.
Sorry about that. My mute was on. I did want to say thank you to everybody over on DLive. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. So many people pop in every single night, like Vicky K, Beer Juice, DFW Jackie, Kimbria. Thank you guys. All four of you have been, I don't think I remember a show you guys missed. At least Vicky K, Beer Juice, and Kimbria. Savannah Sushi, thank you for hosting. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Savannah Sushi, I appreciate that. And thank you for the lemons. I appreciate that as well. Tango 0426, thank you so much for popping in. Thanks everybody over on Rumble as well. We've got a lot of folks over there as well, so thank you. And then over 4,000 on YouTube, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody that has popped in tonight. And a quick reminder before we move on to Russia prepares for escalation in February, I do want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out Energy. So the Flex 1500 is the system I currently use, and I am waiting for the X2 like everybody else. But the Flex 1500 is their flagship system. This is a solar generator that essentially can be modded and added up to 96 batteries. This can basically do the function of almost any other kind of solar generator, and comparably it charges faster, and you can actually mod it to charge 3 times as fast with the supercharger. Make sure to go check it out. Again, you can get unlimited power from the sun. Marfuglenews.com/energy. Also, it is silent, which means you're going to go stealth. Nobody is going to know that you have one. Marfuglenews.com/energy. Use the code Marfoogle. Also, the X2 is shipping out quicker than that. All of these are in high demand and in low supply. As they get the lithium, sorry, guys. As they get the lithium, they make the product and they ship them out. These are made like tanks. When you go and support this company, not only are you supporting an awesome company, but you're also supporting our channel as well. You get a discount up to $170 off on certain packages, and you are helping our channel survive. So thank you, everybody. Marfuglenews.com/INERGY energy. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle. And Russia prepares for escalation in February, asking for new Minsk agreement. Dex, let's have you go over this one. I'll be right back. I'm gonna fix a wire here.
Danilov, the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, has basically come out and said that he believes, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that Vlad is getting ready for an escalation of the situation on the front lines, and he's predicting February. So that's where we're getting that date. He's basically saying that the deputy head of the Russian presidential administration is having meetings with Europeans and trying to persuade them to sign peace deals akin to the Minsk Accords or Minsk III. So that's the gist of this. I think what's most important here, we've seen, and we talked about this over on Marfoogle News in the short video, we've seen the potential ceasefire that was called upon from Vlad to honor the holiday that's coming up. Again, that starts today or tomorrow, depending on what time zone you're in, for the Orthodox Christmas. It's today and the next day, so the 6th and the 7th. And then, of course, UKR and the US is saying, no, that's just a ploy. They don't really want to do that, and they're not abiding by it. And then we've got everyone saying that they're trying to negotiate a deal. But from what we've said and what we've seen and what was even reported today, the only way that deal is going to go through is if UKR gives up their territories. So, Vlad has said, and they've all said, hey, nothing's on the table unless you're going to give up the territories that we want, like the Donbass region and others. And of course, they're not going to do that. Just like, Zelensky says, I'm not going to negotiate unless Vlad is out completely, which is not going to happen. So they basically come to the table with a position that's not movable. So the fact that they're, trying to drum up these potential peace agreements is kind of a good sign, but I don't expect it to actually have any fruit. Like nothing's going to come from that, just because the West wants nothing to do with the position that Vlad has on this. So, but back to the notion of what's going to happen in February, they're suggesting there's specific reasons that's the time period that they're seeing this escalation, this ramp up, and they're expecting by February that's when it's going to happen. There's also the Munich Security Conference that'll take place in the second half of February on the 23rd and 24th. There's also events in New York. So I don't know that those dates right there actually mean as much as we have seen the reporting about the moving of the nuclear equipment away from Engels space so it doesn't get attacked anymore. We've seen the movement of equipment and troops into Belarus. We've seen and the fortification around Crimea. And we know that from what's been reported from Vlad, they conscripted 300,000 additional to their military. It's not just a military of 300,000, but they brought in 300,000. They deployed probably 100,000 right away, maybe 50,000. Those are the ones everybody said were going into the front lines and had no training. But the other half, they've been training this whole time. So the assumption is, and the lines, the dots that are being drawn are that 150 is what's going to be put on the front line and is going to come in. So we'll see. Time will tell. This is just, again, all speculation. Again, this is coming out of UKR, so take it with a giant grain of salt. It's what they're speculating. It's what they're saying. They're suggesting February. They're suggesting that he's trying to generate these peace deals that and they have no chance of going through.
And the White House says it can't confirm that U.S. supplied heavy artillery systems destroyed by Russia in UKR. I covered this in detail over on Marfoogle News. Make sure to go over and check it out there. Dex, if you want to comment on that before we move on. This also, before we move on to the M2 Bradley.
I think that when I hear that somebody can't confirm something, it almost makes me want to believe the opposite. It's like, okay, well, that's just their way of saying we're not ready to admit to it now. So more than likely, we've been putting our equipment over there. We've been giving them all this equipment. I can't imagine any of it's not getting damaged. So to think that, a HIMARS system, which is a pretty, impressive system, wasn't taken out, I could imagine it's a highly targeted system from Vlad. So I imagine he wants to take it out and probably tries as much as possible to take those out. So,
they want to make it look
we're
like
not going to admit it.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Everything's good. It's going in our direction. It's UKR is winning with our help. Of course, they have taken out the source of whatever is firing things. I mean, so basically, they don't want people to be thinking about it or talking about it at the water cooler, that your taxpayer dollars went towards something and now it's blown into smithereens. Basically, they took $11,000 per person in the United States, and it's now been pulverized. So that's just a thought. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then the M2 Bradley fighting vehicles will be sent by U.S. to UKR. We're sending them the whole 9 yards. We've sent the HIMARS. We've sent, of course, missiles and weapons and all sorts of stuff. And of course, the Patriot system. Now we're sending in some badass M2 Bradleys. Why aren't we just at war with Russia? It's like we're basically, it's our gear, it's our infrastructure against theirs. It's definitely a proxy, that's for sure. UKR will soon get a big boost from its armor arsenal as the U.S. will donate. See, they remember how Zelensky said this isn't charity. Then what the hell is a donation? It says U.S. will donate M2 Bradley fighting vehicles, and Germany will provide Marder infantry fighting vehicles to fight Russia's all-out invasion. Remember, they use the word donate because we're not getting paid for it. Why didn't they give them a loan or something like, hey, you can have these M2 Bradleys, but over time, you can make small little payments if you need to. You pay us back. Why? Because they don't need to pay us back. Because the money's going to come back. The money is coming back. The money is getting footed. The bill is getting footed by us. It's just crazy how you think that this is all happening for free. You think nobody is profiting from this? Like, it's just nuts. We're donating. Just think about that. Donating tanks to the cause, right? We're really investing in the security. Vlad didn't have a problem with us. Vlad didn't, they weren't coming after the U.S. before any of this stuff started. So, I don't know. It's just, I would think that people should be focused on China doing something like that more so than Vlad. But again, China is basically infiltrating everywhere and anywhere, but nobody's talking about that. The sixth generation wireless technology could use humans as a power source. So forget the fifth generation, which basically a couple megahertz off from a military weapon. The fifth generation, of course, is just starting to take off worldwide, but a new study said is already speculating on the future of the 6G. Researchers from the University of Massachusetts, unlike older technology, 6G could end up using people as antennas. You got to be kidding. I CJ Blaze, I don't know if you're still here. CJ Blaze did a ton of videos on the fifth generation and how she and many other people, including myself, believe that this is not good. I'll just say this. There was a tree right next to a fifth generation antenna. Half of the tree, the bark had died. Half of the tree had no leaves. I got pictures of this. The hospital that it was at, literally, it was like within 3 weeks of it being put out, it was like half the tree was dead. And then so many people commented that they took it out. And then guess what happened? That tree is now healed. It's not a miracle. They just took away what was doing it. When you see the pictures, you'll see, and I'm sure there's, if this happened there, I'm sure there's tons and tons of pictures of half brown trees out there. Think about what it does to, I don't know, us. That's why they say that they need to be high up and everything. The fifth generation is a megahertz that literally is really, it does not go through things. I mean, it can bounce off of trees. So think about that. It's almost a physical thing. It's bouncing off things. It's just not a great thing. But we need to have instant Facebook, right? We need to have instant Snapchat. Specifically, 6G telecommunications could possibly take advantage of visible light communications, or VLC, which is like a wireless version of fiber optics. It says right now fiber optics use incredibly thin glass or plastic strands to transmit information on flashes of lights. These wires are extremely small but also extremely fragile. The UMass Amherst team says that they have created a low-cost and innovative way of harvesting waste energy from VLC using the human body. The human body as an antenna. Their invention can recycle waste energy to power wearable devices and possibly larger electronics as well. I wonder if our universal income will be because if you sign a waiver, your body will be used to strengthen Mr. Gates's Wi-Fi. We'll just be walking antennas and we'll be paid for sacrificing our health for Wi-Fi. Don't know. But it's definitely interesting, and I'm sure the internet's going to go wild on this until they basically take all ability to have any dissenting views off the internet. Go ahead, Dex.
So this is leveraging LED. Okay, this is really an interesting concept because they're not using the radio waves. They're going to a much higher spectrum and using light waves, which we use every day. They're in your room right now. We all have LEDs everywhere. This is kind of like what we've talked about in the past with Li-Fi, which is a different version of it. But they're talking with this VLC of using LED technology, which can make 1 million transactions a second or on-offs. And that's how they're able to use high-speed information and transmitting it via light and then receiving it via anything with a camera. Would be able to do that. The thing is that when they create that, there's the excess power. That excess power just gets lost. It's almost wasteful. And they tried multiple things from, copper wires to cardboard to plastics to wool and steel to try to capture that energy. And the discovery was the actual human body captures that energy. So if they just wrapped a bracelet or a little coil around your arm, your body actually captures that wasted energy and can then redistribute it back into a device. So you actually are like a little mini power plant walking around. Not that you're generating it, but you're able to pick up that energy that's dismissed from this VLC system. So it's very fascinating what they've done. Who knows what the side effects of this stuff are, but at the end of the day, it's not this is something we're all using right now. It's not like we're bringing a new spectrum and, that you would expect to be inside your microwave and heating up your dinner and shooting it, at people. We're just saying, hey, it's using lights that flash on and off so fast you can't tell they're flashing.
And Li-Fi, as far as like the other technologies that are going in, this is going to come about really, really quickly. And some have said in the next 3 years, we're going to see a total transformation of how we get information, how our phones work. We're talking about, they're already talking about how phones are going to be obsolete. It's all going to be intertwined with us as humans. Now we have Neuralink and all of this other crazy stuff. Think about when they'll end up there'll be people that actually take the Neuralink, right? They will not only be hooked up with Neuralink, but they'll also be an antenna. I mean, we're turning into robots. It's nuts. And then new XBB 1.5 CV variant, most transmissible yet detected. Senior W and the H and the O official warns. Is this like deja vu? What the hell is happening here? It says the new XBB variant of the sieve is the most transmissible yet detected, a senior world organization official has warned. The variant, which has a subvariant of Omicron, is confirmed to be spreading in 25 countries, including the UK and the US. It's happening again. That tabletop exercise, I highly recommend you check out what they just did in October, on October 23rd. Because I don't know, maybe you're right about all of the war stuff. Maybe it will quickly be overshadowed by the next version of what we had in 2019. Only this time, it will be really bad. Because if it was the same, people are going to go, whatever. So they will have to severely step up their game. Or we find out that the next one is actually a WMD of sorts, right? And it will be in course and everybody will be locked down. Meanwhile, the only way you get out of your house is if you join the military and go to conflict with other countries over the reason why this is all happening. By the way, we still don't know the facts or any of the truth. We have absolute evidence that it is most likely from this place in that country and that it was most likely made, right? So think about if we actually found out the truth right now. What if the real truth came out? The Twitter files definitely brought out just a tiny bit, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. And we don't even know if that's the real truth. We don't know what's really happening here. But I'd say this. If the 15-minute city stuff, all of these things make a whole lot more sense. The VR, the AR, that's why I think Zuckerberg, he's willing to take the beating now because he sees another CV type of culture. And everybody's on VR shopping. Think about the money they could make, and they wouldn't have to deal with any of the other stuff. And if there is this other agenda of keeping people from driving, doing all this other stuff, that would also fix that too. And remember that even the top people that are above us and in charge of us, they're stupid too. They're being told something from the very, very, very top. And then those are the people that are really deciding things and making the playbooks and owning the media and all that. So there might be people at the very top that really think they are doing something that's saving the world, and that, they're telling us this because, they're doing it for our own good. Like a parent that, doesn't tell you're telling them that Santa exists for their own good. While they're little, you're keeping them in the dark about certain stuff so they don't lose their imagination, right? They think that they're doing us a favor, And I do believe that there's people at the top, or what we perceive as the top, but it's not. It's the secret groups that we've talked about. They actually think that they're being a hero and that they're doing a service, and they're lying to us, but they don't have a guilty conscience about it because they think they're actually helping us, or that, they're saving the planet or saving the earth or something. I don't know. But it looks like something is about to happen. When we told you this in 2019, when we said, hey, look at all this stuff is going on, that 3-letter agency is putting out graphs. They're doing tabletop exercises that project. And by the way, if we look back in history, that tabletop exercise that happened before this first time around, it was it's incredibly accurate to what actually happened. This next one called Catastrophic Contagion, that 2025, that one shows 1 billion people perishing. That one says it's much worse. It affects the brain. It affects this. It affects all that. That one, much worse. It would take something like that to get everybody doing the same things that happened before. Before that, we told people to stock up. We told people to get their stuff together, and luckily a lot of people did. So I hope that's not the case, but I would highly recommend looking at this as a prepper would. If there is any chance of it, we're in this replay of time, make sure to have your stuff together. And then an intercepted call of an occupier to his wife. There will be no UKR-ins soon. Wait a bit more. It says the Defense Intelligence of UKR has published an intercepted phone call between a Russian occupier and his wife. It said, babe, these are the calls, a Russian derogatory term for the UKRs. And it says they are just rubbish, just dust. Damn it. Why do you even care about them? F them. It is our nation that they will be wiped off the face of the earth. It is our people who will be perished then, and those not taken will be crawling and begging for mercy. Forget about their nation. It will no longer exist. Wait a bit longer. It will be wiped off the face of the earth, and that's it. There will be no more of this hatred between the coals. And it says they are to blame for what they have done, so the sooner they all perish, the better. And children, I don't give an F about them either. I effing despise their children. Okay, by the way, this is like nasty stuff. It says these men are taught to hate us in summer camps, and a coke child should be effing immediately. Okay, so this, by the way, I don't know if this is real, and this very well could be the view. This is a conflict. This is a word. Let's just be real about it. You had the same thing going on with U.S. soldiers or European soldiers and Germans and U.S. soldiers. You had it in every conflict you can think of. You've had every combination of country think this, Japan and U.S., blah, blah, blah. They thought this way about the enemy. First of all, in the training, they actually were told by the superiors to think this way. But at the same time, if this isn't accurate, this is a good way to get all of the people to absolutely hate a certain type of people or a certain culture of people, which I don't know if this is what they've been trained to think like, but if it's a soldier, it possibly would be. But I'll say this, it's all of the people of the world are the same. People shouldn't be mad at the actual people of those countries. They should be mad at the governments and the systems that are creating them. Dex, this is pretty savage if you look at all of this, if this is an actual call, but why did they put it out? Why would they take one phone call from this random soldier, an occupier, as they say, and put it out like this?
Yeah, are we to believe this is the only call they've ever intercepted between somebody that's in the occupation of from Vlad's side calling home? They probably got hundreds of these. Why is this the one they're putting out? And by the way, the source of this is the press service of the Defense Intelligence of UKR. So this is UKR putting this message out. They didn't say this. They're saying they intercepted it from someone. They have no proof of it other than their own word. But then this is, like you said, it's pretty heinous. It's pretty awful. And, it is not out of the norm of possibility. I'm not going to say that, somebody doesn't feel or think that way or talk that way. or even have been, trained that way from their, with their training they got. That very well could be the case. But the point of putting this message out is definitely one to, from UKR's perspective, is to create that division between UKR and Vlad's country. And don't forget that there was a time when UKR was part of, I don't want to say part of Vlad's country. It wasn't actually part of Russia, but it was definitely part of the Soviet Union. And the eastern portion of the country overlaps much more with people that are from Vlad's country. And the western part overlaps more with people from, Poland and other locations that are closer to the western portion of the country. So when you think about how populations had migrated, how families had married and, had children, et cetera, there's a little bit of a division, or I would say a little bit, there's a lot of division in that country from east to west, from the culture. That's why people on the east side actually speak Russian and not Ukrainian. So, or that's their preferred language. So, this is definitely a divisive message. It's extremely intense. I don't know how.
Well, just remember in
much it's true.
There was a Fantastic Freddy in where, what was it? Wasn't it the Germans dressed up as the Polish, and as Polish soldiers, then threw a timed explosive into a school, I believe, back then, and then they said, "Oh, the Polish did it," and then they showed that to their people, to the Germans, and they said, "Look at these evil people," and it got people riled up. They're basically using the equivalent of the N-word for UKR people, and they're basically saying, like, I mean, this is such an angry message to share just in general. I don't know if this is for their morale, to get them pumped up, like, let's take these mofos out or something. But they picked one of the nastiest, the nastiest things that they have intercepted and then put that out there. I bet he doesn't represent all people from Russia, but honestly, it's actually more accurate than what they've been saying. They've been saying that all of these Russian soldiers are just like running, and that they're a bunch of wussies and they're all leaving their posts. One thing that the world has never done before this conflict, or at least not for most of it, has said that, people from that country are a bunch of wussies. Their country's pretty, they come from a rough place. Go ahead, Dex.
I was going to say the same thing. This contradicts the message we've got. The message we've been given for the last 3 months, 4 months is, hey, everybody they talk to that's from the other side says, oh, they weren't happy, or they didn't want to do it, or they didn't want to be here, or, they don't have the right equipment. But this person, the message is they're not going to exist anymore. They're going to be wiped off the planet. Like, that's the mentality that you might expect from adversaries, on one side or the other. They're both probably saying, yeah, we're going to kick the other side's, tail. But that's not what they've told us. But now they're going to tell us this.
Yep. Well, we'll see what goes on. Make sure always take everything with a grain of salt. Ask questions about everything. Make sure to look to your peers in the chat and ask them what they think about everything too. That's the awesome part about this, is you get instant feedback from everybody. You see what real people think, what everybody thinks about this, rather than just getting the narrative from a headline and then never talking to anybody about it, and then having that put in your subconscious without questioning it. A lot of stuff that gets put into our brain, if you don't question it, you just remember it as that. And then you remember that as actual info when it's possibly an op-ed or information. You should question everything for that reason, so your subconscious remembers that when you saw that headline, you questioned it, and you didn't just believe it. You shouldn't believe anything. You should take a grain of salt following anybody right now. We're in a time of conflict. There's tons of Ganda. I'm sure there's sources at the very top putting stuff out to try to trick people like us to share things that are bad. That's why I said question everything. Always change your mind. Always be listening to more viewpoints. Keep your mind open. and be prepared. That's the best thing you can do. All right. Before we cover all sorts of other things going on right now, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. We told you before the last one, we told you before this one, hopefully we don't have history repeat, but as we know, history repeats almost every time. If you want to go get yourself an affordable 3-month package of food, that is probably the best deal there. The reason I like the stuff from My Patriot Supply is it's all freeze-dried, Mylar bags, sealed, is the affordability of huge amounts of food. There are competitors out there, which again, I think in this space, there's a bunch of really great food. There's a bunch of great companies. What I like about Patriot Supply is for about $600, you can get a 3-month supply. That breaks down to about $200 a month. And again, that's 6 weeks of food for 2 people. That's more than most average people have. In fact, most people in the United States have average of 3 days of food in their house at this time. That is really bad. DHS says that you need 6 months to 12 months of food right now because they believe there's some sort of huge threat on our grid. So again, this is something that is not just for SHTF or some bad event. It can be for power outages or bomb cyclones or tornadoes or earthquakes. This is something that really comes in clutch because all you need to do is add water. It puts the water back into the food. Freeze-dried allows that food to last up to 25 plus years. So we're talking about in 2050, you could pull these out and eat them. So that's pretty amazing. And then once you add the water and cook it, it essentially puts all of the water back that was removed, and it brings a lot more of the flavor than if you had none. If you did not freeze dry. Now, dehydrated is great. A lot of people prefer freeze dried because one, it tastes. A lot of the taste is preserved in it, but two, it actually can last longer in most cases. Dehydrated is great too. This is one thing I would say if you can't afford this. Which, by the way, you can get like little amounts as well and do a little bit at a time. You can get the 1 month for $70 off. If you can't do that, we have a whole list of Marfoogle friends at marfooglenews.com/friends that do do-it-yourself videos. So you can learn how to dehydrate. I think dehydrating is probably, I would say it's the least expensive way to preserve food compared to freeze drying, which freeze dryers can cost, thousands of dollars. So if you want to get into that, there's tons of great channels, and we're always going to be adding people to this. I'm looking for a couple great preppers that are really good at dehydrating food. So if you have one that you know of great people that you think are really, really good inside and out, on and off camera, let me know, and I will add them to this list. Make sure to go over here and check out this list. Great people. Dex, let's go over the web only, and then again, just want to shout out. Thank you, Charles Jenkins, Kerry Ray, Stuart Walker, and of course, Stephen McMahon, Eric Denzelson, Carol McLean. Thank you for multiple supports tonight. Carol Quanstrom, Jaleesa H., and thank you, Savannah Sushi, for hosting. Go ahead, Dex. Let's go over the web only and the overflow.
And real quick, did you see Danish Girl before we miss it? It's
no, I did
YouTube
not.
Super chat.
No, I did not. So let's see. Hold on. Let's see here. I missed Robert A. last night, and I felt very bad. But I believe he was at the very, very end. Which, Robert A., it sounds like you only watched the replays. I apologize about that. I try to make sure to get to every single one before the end of the show. Blue Boy 1968 Chap, thank you so much. Says it was a radio station, not a school, Adam. Okay, thank you. Thank you for correcting that. Talking about the Fantastic Freddy, where they took a German soldier, dressed them as a pole, threw a into it, and it was a radio station. That makes a lot more sense. And then Danish Girl, thank you. Massive support. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. $100 super chat says thank you for all the information and the awesome mods and Adam and Dex. Danish Girl, you don't have to do that much. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you stopping by and supporting us. It really is a blessing to have you around. You don't have to do any super chats for us to be thankful for you. So thank you. Eric Dangelson says cities and towns and counties in eastern New Mexico on the Texas border are banning killing hobbies taking, please pay attention to this. Hobbs, New Mexico is the first, and tonight Clovis, New Mexico. God is at work. Can't post word here, I guess. In general, that's one of the big no-no words. And then Sweatin' Ministries, thanks to you, Dex and Mods, for all you do. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Also, Eric, I don't know if you've ever been in a show before that was one of those, but it basically was a 2-hour argument, and it's one of those subjects that just people just never stop arguing. Even if they're on the same page, they just start screaming at each other. All right, Dex, let's go into the overflow. White House rejects Vlad cynical ploy.
Yeah, we got a lot. So don't miss out on this. Make sure you go to the website. All you got to do is go to marfuglenews.com, and you can click on the thumbnail for today's show. You can click on the thumbnail for yesterday's show. If you missed it, go look at all the overflow from there too. If you're on YouTube or Rumble, open up the description, click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here. Lots going on. The note there about the White House rejecting the potential Christmas truce. We covered that on the news channel. So make sure you go check out the news channel for that short video. That really helps us if you guys can share that out. It's a very short video. It's easy for people to want to share and watch, as opposed to a big long show. When you give it to them, they may be overwhelmed at first. So that helps us a lot. So please, thank you for all of you that do that. There are continued updates here. What's going on with Vlad specifically? Hey, Warren Buffett is talking about, we talked yesterday about how the financial world was reacting to the threat of Xi. This time, Warren Buffett's chiming in to the threat of nuclear. So if you want to know what he's got to say there, that's there. The updates that we talked about, Yoon, earlier, this is the admission of saying, hey, it went over his office. You can learn more about that. Also, there's some interesting conversations going on between Putin and Rodin being from Turkey, the president there. And of course, continued updates. Japan has some very interesting things going on, specifically calling for a new type of order for the world, as it says, but it's not necessarily what you may think, but it is what you may think too. It's really interesting. You guys got to check that out if you're interested in what's going on and what they're looking for. They're suggesting that there's a problem specifically with Xi and specifically with Vlad, and they're calling for the U.S. and others to bring in this new thing so that we can stop people like them from having it. We've always said, watch Japan. It's coming from their Ministry of Economics, so take a look at that. All of the Trump political stuff is here. So T-Man's coverage and what's been going on with Kevin and his 11 failures now of trying to be elected the speaker. There's a group holding back on that. That's covered here. It's getting kind of nasty. It's not the first time. I want to say there was back in the 1800s, there was 135 votes to try to get someone nominated. And it's been over 100 years since it's taken 10 times, which is what we're now at. We're at 10 or 11. I think we just passed 11.
Yeah.
Updates with DeMar, apparently he's conscious. One of his first statements was who won the game, or at least that's what they're telling us. Hope well wishes for him. Lots of other things going on with the folks over in the UK. I know a lot of folks there are prideful for their monarchy. It's pretty much a shame what's going on with them. If you want to know the story, it's on the website. Go check it out. Andrew and Tate is also there. Updates on that. And some updates of what's been some reward money that's been increased for stuff that happened back in January, something specific they're looking for. And then a crazy story about a funeral home owner and what she was doing. So if you want all of this, you want the rest of the story, you want to know what's going on, just take a moment and make that click. Just open up the description on YouTube or Rumble, click on the show notes link. You don't even have to leave the app. You can get here, you can read this news, you can click through and see anything that you want to read about, read more in depth. We put it together for you every night. Head over to marfuglenews.com.
Thank you, Dex, and thank you for your service tonight. I appreciate you. And again,
yeah, much love. Great job, brother.
We will be doing a call-in show tomorrow. So if you did want to call in tonight, make sure to tune in tomorrow. We will be doing Again, a Friday call-in show, so it should be pretty poppin'. So make sure to, and because it is a call-in, we will make sure to try to get on by 7 p.m. Pacific. We may try to even go on at 6:30 so we can get more callers. So make sure to be here tomorrow if you do want to call in. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the mods. Ilea, definitely very active down there. Thank you so much for your service tonight. Thank you to everybody that popped in. Thank you to all the mods. You can go over to marfooglenews.com/friends and find all of their links and all their channels and their books. Chance Paladin is an author, of course, has the new Bunker Codes books out. You can find his book on Amazon on the website over there. Of course, and then Trinity does really great videos, a lot of editing, a lot of time. And then CJ Blaze was here tonight. She has done stuff on the 5th G, all sorts of great videos. So make sure to check out her channel as well. Thank you for everybody that stopped in, that supported, that hosted. Danish Girl, thank you so much. You are the top supporter tonight. I appreciate you. Over on DLive, thank you, and thank you. Vicky K, I appreciate you. Deep State of Mind, and then Savannah Sushi, thank you for hosting. Appreciate all of you guys. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Let's make a fresh one for Danish Girl. Thank you. Let's see here. We'll make it very quick. Try to get it. And then make sure to join us over on Marfoogle Jams. That is where the show continues. You can join the chat over there.